I was thinking about how many names we have for a bar.
A lot.
Gin joint, cantina, tavern, rathskeller. And they say, how did you know we were from a bachelorette party?
Because you're all wearing tiaras with penises sticking out of them,
Yeah,
ladies.
that's kind of unusual, I'd say. Pickle barrel, meat market, liquor den, slut hive, brew haven, hooch harbor. Vocals on this album remind me of Dodheimsgard when he says things like mordant wind. What the hell is that? Did you ever think that maybe the Playboy Bunny actually is a cocaine dealer that sells drugs to the Energizer Bunny? Saloon, Debuza, ale house, tap room, sausage hang, watering hole, dive bar, brouhaha. Can you imagine they walk in the airport? You must remove all chaps, ponchos, spurs, lasso, hats, extra large metal belt buckles, and boots.
This is the Snaggletooth Extreme Metal Podcast.
So, what's going on?
Have you ever gotten someone randomly offer you advice in a store?
No, and this is more your thing. I don't.
No, I'm not saying they're asking for your advice. They give you advice.
I don't really know. Like, what happened?
I was in a hurry one day and I was trying to get back to 3,000 things to do. So I just picked up a carton of eggs and I put them in my cart.
Mm-hmm.
And an old lady admonished me that I needed to examine the eggs first instead of just buying them willy-nilly.
Yeah. Well, that's really the only thing that you're supposed to open the package on, I mean, they don't have you checking to make sure there's counting the bacon strips. I mean,
I guess it's the one of the few things that aren't sealed up, like everything has, after the whole, Tylenol cyanide controversy, which prompted everything to have, plastic seals around it, and you go to open it and there's another seal on the inside.
Yeah.
Not eggs. No, eggs are just out there.
Well, I did have a kind of a similar encounter in that we have two Home Depots that are within driving distance from here. One which is nice but a little further away, and one that's close and is an absolute shithole. Just this isn't what I want, that type of thing. And when I'm buying plumbing parts, when I'm doing plumbing projects, it is not at all what it says in the at all. So you have to look at every single thing before you put it in the cart and be like, all right, is this actually 1.5 inches? Is this actually 3 inch? Is this actually a Fernco? And I've actually said things to other people that have walked up. A guy walked up, reached up and just grabbed it. And I went, you better check that. The bins are all fucked up. And he went, this is 2 inch. And I said, yeah, it's labeled 1.5 inches. Yeah. So anyway, I was the good Samaritan of the shitty plumbing aisle, I guess, this week. So
I always take pity of people wandering around the complex where I work because everyone just wanders around looking lost. So when I see someone frantically examining the map or, the listing of the suites, I'm like, what are you looking for?
Yeah. I guess 10 years from now, I'll be in a position where I'll go up to the front counter and I'll say, those fittings are a shambles. You should be ashamed of yourselves, but I just don't care that much at this point. So we had some black braid controversy this week. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems as though Norway, we've heard from multiple sources that they tend to be a little more rigid, shall we say, on the rules.
I'd say buttoned up, yeah.
Like here at our local bar, you usually find at least one person asleep on the bar. They wake them up periodically for some beer nuts.
Multiple people at the firehouse.
Apparently, you can't do that in Norway. You cannot sleep at a concert venue.
Yeah.
You can't be overly intoxicated.
Yeah.
Apparently,
sounds like there was a little bit of intoxication and a little bit of racism.
Yeah. And that doesn't mix well together because in those two instances, your anger is just going to boil over. And I think that's what happened here.
Yeah.
And I honestly can't fault him. I mean, John is the sweetest guy.
Yeah.
I kind of side with him over this because I mean, racism makes anybody crazy.
Right.
Okay. And yeah, so maybe he was a little too drunk or someone in his camp was a little too drunk and that magnified everything. But I guess both sides were wrong here.
Well, I've heard that in some parts of Scandinavia, it's like the First Blood thing, where you're a stranger and you got long hair and you wander into town, and the cop's like, "Where are you going? I'll give you a ride out of town." They like things buttoned up. They like things neat. It's just that's the stereotype. Again, got to take things with a grain of salt.
Well, Blackbraid even seemed to, think that they had him confused with another brown guy that had been causing problems, which wasn't even him.
It is.
That's kind of profiling.
Well, they were. Norway is that's the alpha and the omega of everything we're talking about here. So, yeah.
Check back our earlier episode, Norwegian diversity, for more about Norwegians and diversity.
Exactly. So, okay. Right off the bat, did you ever think that maybe the Playboy Bunny actually is a cocaine dealer that sells drugs to the Energizer Bunny? I had a little extra time this week to think. That's why Energizer is always wearing sunglasses. He's trying to cover up his red eyes from a 3-day bender. And my theory is that Jessica Rabbit actually contacts Playboy occasionally, and he'll set up a lap dance with a big spender if her finances get tight. Yeah.
I don't know. It's there's no word, if it's done in black and white or color, I suppose. Maybe you got to pay extra for the color version.
I never see Pornhub black and white. It would be an interesting angle, yeah. So, all right, along the same lines, I was wondering who came up with the clothes for Yogi Bear? A hat, a collar that's not hooked up to anything, and a tie, and then everything else is just flapping in the wind. Who drew that and went, yeah, that looks good? Who came up with that?
Apparently, it's the same people who,
Fozzie Bear, same thing. I mean, basically, he's naked, but then they just tie some half-ass cravat and put a derby on him. All right, now you're done. I mean, either get these animals dressed up or go the full foghorn leghorn and just have them be au natural.
Mickey Mouse always seems to just wear pants and no shirt.
At least Smokey the Bear had the decency to put on a pair of jeans, So, while we're on the subject, you ever notice Miss Piggy?
Yeah.
You are not going to see Miss Piggy naked. Miss
No.
Piggy, unless you visit her OnlyFans page, but Miss Piggy is Miss Piggy is like a fashion plate, right? What she wears is just like the paparazzi are following her everywhere. But Kermit just walks around naked. I mean, what couple is like that where she's a fashion plate and he's just like Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, I think that would put a strain on any relationship if the husband parades around naked all the time.
Maybe that's why she's always so prone to her little fits of jealousy.
I don't think nudity has anything to do with jealousy. Sorry. Hey, you looked up her full name, though.
Yeah, her full name, according to Jim Henson, is Pigathus, which translates from Greek to mean river of passion. So maybe she's into nakedness.
Throw on some slacks, Kermit. I mean, think about like the other end of the spectrum, the Berenstain Bears. You got hats, overalls. She walks around in a polka dotted house dress thing with a matching bonnet. I mean, Sugar Bear found a turtleneck big enough to cover his entire body, apparently. But I think he stole his look from the mascot of Icy, the Icy mascot. Yeah, anyway. In other news, I was thinking about how many names we have for a bar.
A lot.
Gin joint, cantina, tavern, rathskeller, saloon, debuza, alehouse, tap room, sausage hang, watering hole, dive bar, brouhaha, pickle barrel, meat market, liquor den, slut hive, brew haven, hooch harbor, speakeasy, flop house, hole, and roadhouse. Interesting.
Yeah, I always figure the more words we have for something, it shows its importance to society. Like the more slang terms we have or just names in general.
That's why there's 94 words for schmuck in Jewish.
Right. Yeah. Well, think about it. There are no slang terms for like a funeral home.
Yeah, but I think in the world of death metal, they've come up with a few: mortuary drape, sarcophago, funeral, that sort of thing. You don't hear a lot of people say, what'd you do last night? We went to our local Rathskeller. You don't hear a lot of that. The word's I think we should bring it back. I like it,
Is that bar still in Baltimore, the Rathskeller? There used to be a bar called the Rathskeller.
Called the Rath. Well, the student union at Towson, well, that was called the Rat. We just called it the Rat for short, but so you don't hear Rathskeller very much. You ever be at a bar and a bachelorette party tries to invade the bar?
I've worked in a restaurant where this has happened.
5 or 6 clearly drunken women, and they all have on matching T-shirts. And they say, "How did you know we were from a bachelorette party?"
Because you're all wearing tiaras with penises sticking out of them, ladies.
That's kind of unusual, I'd say.
And the sashes that say bride, bridesmaid.
There are definitely a lot more of when dudes go out for a bachelor party, we're just going out to get hammered and look at naked women. But I mean, there's a huge line of products and party favorites from bachelorette parties: blowjob bibs, penis-shaped shot glasses, necklaces that say "one dick forever."
Well, there's always the obligatory penis cake, that they get to cut and slice up. It's so Lorena Bobbitt.
Lorena Bobbitt, yeah. Yeah, I wonder if those tabletop gamers at Critical Hit are going out of their shell at these things. What's their idea of a cut loose bachelor party? These tabletop game guys. I think it's probably we painted with the oil-based enamel, getting a contact buzz. Ooh, weird. Not a lot going on there. Oh, God, I always had trouble whenever I'd go to bachelor parties. I had trouble figuring out where the line was between stripper and prostitute. I always figured I was safe with the look but don't touch, hoot and holler but don't touch. Best way to play it. Until I went to the one and she just pulled my face right into her cooch. The night took a very interesting turn at that point. Yeah.
That doesn't happen with male strippers. No. And the couple that I have been to parties where there was a man stripper, if you talk to them afterwards, they're most definitely gay. I don't know what that phenomenon is.
My buddy said, "What'd you think of her?" And I said, "Lilac." All right, you want to talk about our feature interview this week?
Our feature interview this week is Chuck Sherwood and John McEntee from Incantation.
That's right.
It's an epic discussion covering everything from the exciting new concept record, Unholy Deification, to label changes, to touring Asia, and the band's bittersweet crumble after the success of their debut, 1992's Onward to Golgotha. Plus, we throw in a bit of blaspheming monikers. Always fun for mom, dad, and the kids. Absolutely. So stay tuned for that.
Absolutely. So let's play a song from Onward to Golgotha. This is Devoured Death. Okay, let's talk about Patreon. The site is patreon.com/Snaggletooth Podcasts. I am become very interested in reviewing my little 7-inches. Been doing a bunch of those. This week, I decided I'd go back and pull out some forgotten, not often discussed albums. So I pulled out Dark Throne's Total Death from 96 and Black Sabbath's The Eternal Idol from 87. Do these albums still sound good? Do they hold up? You'll just have to go to patreon.com and see this exclusive content.
I think I will also be filming. I will show you how to make my ridiculously good hot pickles.
Jeez, can't have any.
The last batch of those today. And also my eggplant parm. So we'll set that up later.
Yeah, we had Stace. When Stace cooks things like roast chicken or pickles or whatever, or makes these things, I see them as guilt-free snacking because they're almost completely fat-free, right? So she made this little mini rotisserie chicken the other night for her lunch.
4-pound chicken.
I ate all of it. I just was like, "Sorry about your lunch. You're going to have to grub home today." I ate the whole fucking thing. I mean, we're talking bones crunching and all. I don't recommend watching. So when it comes to Stacy's snacks, you can't beat it. They're healthy and yummy.
I'll show you how to make them your own because Mark will not let you have any of these pickles.
No, you can't. No. Everyone keeps asking for them, and she says my husband won't let me. So
exclusive content just for our Patreons.
Absolutely. Okay.
Also, get over to Instagram and Facebook.
Well, and of course, subscribe to this channel. Don't be a lurker.
Yeah.
Nobody likes a lurker.
Don't feel, don't keep us to yourself. Share us. It's okay. We love you guys, but we're always looking to broaden our audience and help more people discover new music
and good old music. Okay, if you watch the old westerns like fistful of dollars, a few dollars more, good, the bad, and the ugly. The cowboys had to wear so much protective clothing when they were like riding on the range, the blankets, the ponchos, the boots. They must have hated the TSA. Can you imagine they walk in the airport? You must remove all chaps, ponchos, spurs, lasso, hats, extra large metal belt buckles, and boots. And then for insult to injury, what do you mean I can't take my firearm on the plane? I mean, it wouldn't go well if the TSA met up with these guys.
They would need a huge recombobulation area
would.
after taking all that off.
Milwaukee Airport.
They never sneak up on anyone because think about the cowboys. Jingle, jingle, jingle. Maybe even a bullet belt. Who knows?
If you're really good with the lasso, did they call you a ropist? I like rope. You said rope twice.
Yeah, did you know there are many types of chaps? Shotgun chaps, batwing chaps.
This is made up.
Chinks.
This is made up.
Sorry, Mr. Wing.
This can't be right.
Armitas, farrier's aprons, woolies, zamaras, and the list goes on. Plus, Chaps is the name of a pretty dang good pit beef restaurant.
And that I know. Yeah.
And the cologne by Polo. And don't get me started on chapstick.
Oh, no, please. And actually, assless chaps is an oxymoron. They're all crotchless, apparently. Unless you can fit chaps on a donkey, then I guess you'd have an ass chaps.
Oh, God.
And the fringe is not just for Ozzy's fashion purposes either.
No, it's actually functional. It actually diverts as an aqueduct to divert the water away from the cowboy as he's driving. Riding, not driving.
It's not just for hippies anymore, I guess. Yeah.
Fringe.
Yeah. I guess the urban equivalent of the tumbleweed is when you find that one errant shoe just sitting there on the side of the road. How did this get here? Yeah.
How did the rest of that person's life go after that?
And I'll close this section out by just saying that I have always been fascinated by the idea of the 10-gallon hat. I cannot think of any time that I needed 10 gallons of anything. Was Buffalo Bill going home to fill up his aquarium or something?
10 gallons of gas, maybe.
10 gallons. So in the 80s, we had some good fashions, but some really bad ones.
Yeah,
bad.
Horrible. And
there are photos of both of us in many of these devices. But shoulder pads on women's jackets. Who came up with this? Because men love fake girthy shoulders on women, You had pantsuits with shoulder pads.
I did. Right? And I always thought the idea of the shoulder pads is because it makes you look broader up here. Your waist somehow looks smaller. I think that was like the whole triangle shape. I don't know. It was
God
weird.
Damn you, Melanie Griffith.
I'm not sure if it was Michael Jackson or Melanie Griffith. They were both big proponents of the shoulder.
How about knee-high socks and short shorts? That's an interesting look. Women look like they were getting ready to go to field day.
Or play field hockey.
Yeah.
And what the fuck was the purpose of leg warmers? I had some back in the day. There's some picture of me in a leotard and, you had to wear the leg warmers. It's just like, is it supposed to give you sweatier calves? I mean, it wasn't like they added weight or resistance. It was just like a scrunchy leg ornament.
Honey, the back of my knees are freezing. I guess, is that where it came from? How about those pastel colored Don Johnson jackets?
Oh, wow.
With just a t-shirt underneath. It always looked to me almost like kind of like a lab coat, but for like a doctor that didn't study and he was only good at flower arranging. A mint green jacket. I mean, it's just not a good look. Unless you're Sammy Hagar.
Yeah, and everything was big and puffy. The hair was puffy. Joan Collins used to wear those puffy gowns that looked like she was smuggling several of her ex-husbands, a snack, and some vials of Botox in her sleeve.
Oh, yeah, big puffy sleeves. Yeah,
I always blame
got a whole warehouse in there. Yeah.
I always blame those puffy sleeves on the Princess Diana wedding dress that spawned 1,000 yards of pleats.
Yeah.
My wedding dress had puffy sleeves.
Jelly shoes were the plastic precursor to the lazy Crocs.
Yeah. Definitely. They're the only other plastic shoe I can think of that created a craze.
Jellies, wow.
And I always hated the preppy look where you popped your collar. Instead of having it down here, for those of your kids at home, you had to have the collar turned all the way up. And I always thought it made you look like you had not finished getting dressed, like you had put the shirt on and then walked off and forgot to put it down. And there was always one shirt that you had, if you tried to put it up, the collar would not defy gravity. And you just had to constantly either hike it back up or go around with maybe one down and one up or popped cocky.
I could never be a preppy because I could never get past that rule. Don't roll cigarettes up in your sleeves. You lost me. So, all right, let's play a song from Incantation. This is from the new album. It's called Concordal, The Pact. Okay, let's talk about Coffee AM.
All right.
We talk about coffee on this show.
A word from our sponsor. This is Coffee AM. They are an online coffee broker of the best quality. You can get regular decaf. You can get teas. They have flavored coffees. They have non-flavored coffees and fair trade. They even have that expensive Kona coffee if you really want to go crazy. But all of their stuff, you can pick whether it's French grind, drip grind. If you want to have the whole beans, they offer so many options. They are FedEx to your door. Really quick service. I will show you. We have been customers a long time. This is a creme brulee coffee, emblazoned with Mark and exclusively brewed for Mark and Stace. And this one is a Cafe Parisian coffee. So we have a little bit of regular. We got a little bit of flavors. The flavors are never too overwhelming. They're always just perfect, and they have tons to choose from. So use our link to get over to their website and save on your first order.
Yeah, their biggest competitor is the tea company. You know what they're called?
Oh, God. What?
Mr. Tea Coffee. Okay, let's play the theme from Campfire.
Because streaming services are evil corporations that gatekeep bands from their fans and pay them pennies while collecting millions.
This is Campfire.
Campfire this week is Norway's black and thrash trio, Aura Noir. The site is auranoir.bandcamp.com.
Aura Noir are a three-piece formed in Oslo in 1995 as a result of Aggressor and Apollon's frustration with the metal underground's trends and fads. They saw a gap that needed to be filled with something real, something metal. They intended to create a band that combined influences of 80s luminaries such as Sodom, Celtic Frost, Venom, Voivod, Dark Angel. Thus, black thrash metal was born.
So the lineup is Blasphemer on guitar. His name is Rune Eriksson. He's ex-Mayhem. Aggressor. His name is Carl Michael Eld, and he was in Ved Buenzenda. He's on vocals and bass. And then Apollyon is on drums. His name is Ole Jørgen Moe, Immortal, and Dodheimsgard. We never met an Aura Noir album we didn't like. Black metal with a thrashy edge, built on the crisp, punchy percussion of one Aggressor, who simply attacks the drums in raw cut after raw cut with lyrics like "Chrome hooves trample God's creation." What's not to like, really?
Yeah, you got to check out this back catalog. The band has 6 full-length albums going back to 1996, Black Thrash Attack. 1998 brought us Deep Tracks of Hell with Serve Daly on guitar. 2004's The Merciless featured guest vocals from Nat Frost of Carpathian Forest, as well as Fenris from Darkthrone and Zweez from Fluidity.
2008's Hades Rise had a 2-guitar lineup, including Denny Corrales from Autopsy. 2012 saw the release of Out to Die, a label change to a much bigger Indie Recordings. That's the label with Kvelertak, Enslaved, etc. And the album has a notation on it. Blasphemer's rhythm and lead guitars were recorded at Blasphemer's yacht under strict guidance of Whitney Houston. So they do have a sense of humor. It's a great record. There are some swelling guitar harmonies in Abaddon. It ends with Aggressor croaking, "Break the bones, Abaddon." Awesome. The bass sounds meaty and warm, and the guitar work is nimble as fuck. I love something like The Grin from The Gallows, which is just a total Hellhammer primitive riffing, but then Blasphemer lays this ripping shred solo over it. It's so cool. So why don't you choose a song, Ben?
All right. And we're also looking forward to seeing these guys
at MDF.
2024 MDF. They will be here.
Yeah.
Can't wait. So let's play a song from Out to Die. This is Fed to the Flames.
Okay, Campfire continues with Aura Noir. We're going to focus on their latest album, which was Aura Noir E. Came out in 2018. You know, I love it when they make it better and you didn't even ask them to. How often does that happen? Oreos were great the way they were. And then the company just gave us double stuff without even asking what we thought. Boom. I already liked the Mission Impossible movies, and then they added in Alec Baldwin. It's even better. Fantastic. Now we have next level black and greatness from Aura Noir. Somehow they made it better than the old stuff.
They're already one of those bands, the ones you wait for with bated breath. You wait, and then you forget about them a little until one day the news comes. New album. Quickly, you make sure it's the same band. I was thrown by the E on the end of the title. But as soon as the song starts, yes, it's those crazy Norwegians. Old Apollon Moe pounding away on the drums. Aggressor's vocals sound like Kronos with the thesaurus, dropping absurdly satanic words and phrases that just go over our head-banging heads. Vulture Mermation? Ungraspable Dead? Gene Deep Certainty? If you're not buying what Aura Noir is preaching, I'll not raise a tankard with ye. Be gone.
I like that. The vocals on this album remind me of Dodheimsgard when he says things like Mordant Wind. What the hell is that? Anyway, Blasphemer's riffs are very voivodish on this record. And I mean the really good voivod, like the tank treads on the skull voivod, like Killing Technology and Roar. Dissonant riffs, flailing, just ripping and tearing eardrums with tritony greatness and cuts like Demoniac Flow. Frankly, I would have been okay with just a carbon copy of The Merciless. But that's not the Aura Noir way. More quality black and thrash than any of us deserve. Burn in hell, filth hounds. This is Demoniac Flow.
This is our interview with John and Chuck of Incantation. We had a fabulous time getting more insights into this new concept album and what it's all about and where it came from, where they've been, and where they are going. Okay, as well as a bit of fun.
A lot of fun. Check it out. So we're based out of Baltimore, we were just saying, and it sounds like we're actually all three on the same time zone.
Awesome.
Yeah. It never happens. Yeah.
So I think
yes,
Mark
usually
met you a long time ago, John.
Yeah.
You were working a booth at MDF, I think.
Oh.
And I just came up and started asking about some of the merch, and then I said, "Wait a minute, are you John McEntee?"
Yeah, that was probably mostly in I think the 2000s or whatever. I used to.
It was a long time ago, but yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So, cool. Well, nice to see you again.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's been a long time. Yeah.
I know. I scoured Maryland Death Fest. I was like, "Oh, are they coming?" But you're not.
No,
not this year.
Not this year.
No. One of these years they'll help me back. We actually did it a lot of times, so can't complain that they want to take a little break from us.
Well, they're doing this.
I would too.
Year. They didn't have it this year. They had this other thing called Hell in the Harbor, which was
really similar.
So now they're going to have that and MDF next year. So they're going to see if Maryland or if Baltimore can handle two huge death metal festivals. So we'll see.
But they're not going to do it next to each other, are they?
I don't know.
Not the same weekend.
No,
not the same weekend.
But they're going to space it out a few weeks. But it's just very interesting, you know.
I mean, if they do it like one weekend and then the next weekend, they could have almost every like death metal band play each year.
But not you guys.
It's like it's like a lineup of like 800 bands.
Oh, yeah. God, I know. Well, let's talk a little bit about the new album. Congratulations on it. It's
really good.
It's really a work of art. I mean, the idea for the concept with Chuck and the lyrics, how did all that come about?
So I guess I'll be repeating myself with this, but it's that back when we did the Dirges of Elysium album, it was trying to create a concept that was in and of itself drawn from either like a historical point of view, but put into the personal perspective. And I think originally, like my intent was to have like the 6 songs be like essentially its own entity and an own EP. But what ended up developing is that all of it turned into like one big magnum opus. This time around, I was trying to expand upon that and create an apotheosis of an individual from human to a deity, ultimately worshipped, idolized, sacrificed to, the embodiment of all the anti-ethical of the religious forms that had created it and the subconscious that feeds it, and to essentially be a god, an evil one, most definitely.
Yeah,
I love the whole concept, even though Google doesn't like it and keeps wanting to change it to defecation. I'm like, no, stop it.
Yeah.
What I wanted to
Well,
say.
that's horrible.
Deification.
Yeah.
Well, it just they do that because we're heavy as fuck, heavy as shit, you know.
Or
Exactly,
yeah, heavy as shit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's heavy.
So what
It's
is
heavy
an
fucking
occult
shit,
logician?
motherfuckers. What's that?
So the called a logician, you just said?
Yeah, that's what they list
Yeah.
you as. Yeah.
So that it only pertains to this particular release necessarily because it's that the nature of each one of the songs is a progressive chapter in your story of this mortal becoming a god. So you're going to have elements of all different forms of ritual magic derived from every single society on the planet, to be honest, at any given point, because you have everything from ritual circles and altars and sacrifices, but you also have like appeasing elemental forces, and you have like sigil magic. You have deities that require like male properties, female properties, in order to create a vessel in which the person would embody. So that is the homunculus song, for example.
Right.
And each one of them is a progressive step in it. And music flow is of one particular order, whereas the Roman numerals then would provide a secondary order to the reading, just purely conceptual, and that could be done by the individual. If you want to read it or listen to it, there's 2 ways to even listen to the album, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, I read the whole lyric sheet. I felt like I was reading like a Clive Barker book or something. Yeah, it was very
Cool.
very Clive Barker. Yeah.
That anything in quotations as well, just so that you know, is actual interactions. That is actual dialogue between said person and the entities that he's summoning.
Yeah.
So that makes it even a little bit more expansive, if you're willing to dig that deep.
Very different.
Oh, yeah.
Very different for the genre. Very different. Yeah.
There's a Clive Barker book. It's called Mr. Begone. And that's what kept coming up in my head. It's about this demon that kind of ends up as falling from hell, or he gets kidnapped by these priests that are like fishing for demons. And when they fish for demons, they put a beer and a steak on a hook, which I think would work for most Americans.
Yeah, that's how you get me.
And then when they went to, reach for it, it would net them and they drag them up, and then they get stuck in this world. And it's really gory, but it's an interesting tale.
Interesting. Yeah.
Is this like around the era of like The Thief of Always, or not?
Yes,
like as far,
yes.
So it's
Which
very
is another
young.
one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a good one as well. Yeah.
So whose idea was the piano intro on what's it, Megaron? Sunken Cheek?
So I had written that as essentially like a 30-second sequence, but then it was Luke's application to creating it and being more evolved in the way that you hear it now.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was like, I'm hearing a piano on an incantation now. Wow. Yeah.
I like it because it's not one of those concept things that it has to go from start to finish, like, and not make coherent. Because we were listening to what was the Argonauts, and it's definitely this story. And I like that the fact you can just dip in and dip out and still appreciate it.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, each one of these chapters in and of themselves is that one particular, step. So if you regardless of what song that you find interest in or want to skip over, the thing is that is one particular chapter. It has a beginning, middle, and an end.
Would you consider doing the concept like this again?
Debatable. It took a good probably about a year and a half to compile it all. So yeah, debatable. I don't know.
Was it easier for you, John? Because he did all the lyrics. You could just focus on the music.
Yeah.
Was that easier?
Yeah, we could do that every album. It's no problem for me.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's not like I don't think it's we'll say yay or nay on doing it again. It just depends if it just makes sense. If there's, if Chuck comes up with something that makes sense and it's a concept again, who knows? Maybe it'll just be a partial concept. It could be a full album concept, whatever. I mean, we're just open to whatever happens to make sense in the situation,
Yeah. I'll tell you what, the artwork is, wow. I mean, how did you guys pick, the artwork, and how did you communicate? He really nailed it. I mean, the concept, he really did.
Oh, without a doubt. We've been working with him since Dirges of Elysium, and it's like a collaborative effort to where you present, certain elements of the album, or or all of them in their entirety, and then he will take, each respective thing to make a genuine flow out of a particular piece. And that's just a testament to his expertise, because for our own part, we're kind of oblivious to it. We know what we want in particular, but then the end result is like, well, does it look good? Well, you never know the outcome until it actually surfaces. And originally we had like one mock-up and it was done. We started to build upon that over the years, but we went back to this original core of, now we only have one singular topic with one singular item. And he was able to devote more time and effort to that. And he was very patient with us. And I think he did an amazing job, because the cover, I think, is fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's important that they had, it was easier because we did have one topic for the whole album instead of the other ones where we're sometimes trying to fit in elements of different songs on the album title, and it could get a little bit, I don't know what the right word is, not really messy, but just like overstuffed with information, and it's hard to get it out there. So even in the future, it might have to even just decide, if it's not going to be a concept album, which is the best like singular thing to do that kind of will embody at least some of the album, because it was way easier to come up with something this way than it was when you had, I don't remember how many songs are on the last one, like 10 songs or something, and it's 10 different concepts, and you're like, well, we want to have this on there and that on there and this on, and before you know it, it gets really it's just too much, and you're just like, yeah, but the overall look doesn't look good, like the concept's there, but it doesn't look like one cohesive thing.
Yeah, exactly that. It's just overwhelming.
I had a label related question. I remember in the early days, you guys, I remember reading interviews, and John, you seemed like you were unhappy with Relapse. Mm-hmm. And then you moved away from Relapse, but now you're back with Relapse. Like, what exactly happened there?
Well, I mean, in the early days, I mean, to be fair, we were all ignorant at the, just learning about the music industry. So that's an important part of the puzzle. Second of all, I thought at a certain point, even though they were great, they really were acting like assholes about stuff and getting involved in stuff that was personal band stuff, which they should have kind of known their place, as far as they're the label. They're not, in the band. They can't make these kind of decisions that have to be made from within the band, because you could never know what it's like being in the band unless you're in the band. You talk about it, you can pretend, but the chemistry that we had, was something that a label can't necessarily force or try to dictate or whatever. So that was a problem we had with them. Say midway on, not early on. Early on, they were great. Midway, once things got a little rocky on our end, they kind of got a little flaky, and then they kind of like jumped back on ship and realized, okay, maybe, I know what I'm doing with the band or whatever. But then at the same time, once the 2000s, like the early 2000s came, they were just really concentrated on other styles of music, like the Mastodons and Dillinger Escape Plan. And just a sort of amount of stuff that was just really far away from what we were doing. And it was even just the people working there, they just didn't care about what we were doing. They looked at us as like old news, and they weren't giving us the attention that we needed to prosper properly in that environment. And I know that their bread and butter was other bands, not us at that time in our career, it was a low point. But the fact is that I thought that they should have respected the fact that we were one of the bands that helped build the label up.
Yeah.
And even in the times when things weren't as good, they still should have gave proper focus. And they were sending our album to get reviewed in magazines that were, or by reviewers that had no interest in death metal and were like into this new metalcore and like I said, like that Dillinger Escape Plan. I don't even know what that style's called, but whatever it is.
I remember that. It was like they hit gold with everything. It was like Today Is the Day and Mastodon.
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I remember that.
It was all. I mean, nothing against those bands or nothing, but it just wasn't like our crowd. We'll say, like we didn't relate to those bands, and the people at the office that were working there weren't interested in what we were doing. They were interested in that stuff, and the label was interested in pushing that stuff because they were kind of hitting gold everywhere with all these different styles. We were just kind of like almost there for street cred or something like that, but they didn't really they didn't give us the attention that I thought that we needed, because in an environment like that, it's actually more it to be more, I don't know, delicate's not the word, but just more focused, because just because Today Is a Day and Mastodon, all these bands are doing really well and they have a good get a lot of good reviews from these kind of people or whatever, or interviews and stuff with these bands. Those people aren't interested in what we're doing, so they were treating us like we were like those bands when we weren't those bands. And finally I just said, fuck it, this is just stupid. It's like you guys aren't into it, we're not happy with it. It's like, it's better just to part ways. We kind of, when we finally parted ways around 2000-ish or 2001, I can't remember exactly, it was like a mutual thing, because we both realized that just was getting nowhere, and we were just getting pissed at them, and they were sick of us bitching at them about stuff, whatever. So we ended up parting ways, and it was a good thing for us to do at the time. It was the right thing to do at the time. But like most things, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Even though there was a lot of positive stuff that happened during that time, it's around 2014 or something like that, I guess, or 15. I mean, it's more like 15-ish. We started like realizing that Relapse were really running their label really well, and like they were doing these repressings of some of our albums, and they were integrating us. Like they were really concerned about having our input in there. They were also, like we were finally recouping on some of those albums, so we're actually getting a little bit of money in and stuff, and they were giving us statements and they were paying us. So all these things were happening that were positive with them that we weren't even seeing with the other labels that we were working with after them. That when the situation came up, I was just talking to Eli over there one day, and I was like, too bad you guys don't want to work with us anymore, because it seems like we really have a good working relationship now with this back catalog. And he was like, what are you talking about? It's like, we would love to work with you guys. We've been wanting to work with you guys for years, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I thought you guys didn't want to work with us, so we didn't want to work with you. And he's like, well, we didn't think you guys wanted to work with us, so we didn't want to work with you. So it was just that kind of situation. I was like, well, you know what? Fuck it. Let's try to do this, because we were terribly disappointed with Listenable Records, their work, especially their work in the U.S. There's a lot of other things they did that I thought was very distasteful, but especially in the U.S., it was just they were disastrous for us, because they were promising us that they were going to have the proper distribution channels and stuff in the US and just the proper promotion and everything, and they really didn't pull through on any of that. And I'm not going to say that there's not good reasons. I don't know, maybe Lauren and the guys there have a good reason why this happened the way it did, but luckily we were able to move on from them and work on with Relapse or Profane Nexus album, because pretty much everything Profane Nexus album until now has been just going in a positive direction. And my intuition of work going back to Relapse is definitely right. And now I can have nothing but good things to say about them. I mean, I know a lot of bands that were on them at our time have a lot of negative stuff to say about Relapse, but I can only say they've been great to us. They've been really honest, straight up. They don't bullshit us about stuff. So I really can't like I can't say anything bad. They're the most transparent label that I've ever worked with. So I'm extremely satisfied with the work they've done. And I think everybody else in the band is also extremely satisfied with the work they've done.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
I
mean, coming back,
to them, because like if you think about like the Motorhead story, like they had the same problem. Like they bitched about Bronze, and then they never got back after they left Bronze. Every time they changed labels, they lost momentum. It was like they were getting screwed out of money, or they weren't getting promoted, or So at least you guys got back to a good label. That's great.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to get back on them. I mean, there were a few other options label-wise to possibly go with, but it was just nothing that it just felt right because Relapse has our back catalog, a large quantity of it. Plus, they just seemed like they were enthusiastic about it, and it's like that's the kind of people you want to work with, or people that are excited to work with you, not just looking at you as just another band on their label or. Right. Another way for them to make a little extra scratch,
I was also really loving the videos that you guys put forth. I don't know if that's Relapse or you guys, but the Concordat turned out great.
Yeah.
So much bloodletting and transformation.
Yeah. That was
the video
the
shot.
Coin.
That looked like a crazy set.
Yeah, that was the Coin, based out of Michigan. We actually filmed that one in particular because of being one of the stronger songs on the album, and also the first chapter of concept. And we did 2 videos in the course of a weekend with those guys. It was rapid fire, and they had a pretty extensive client list. They even had done some teaser trailers for Queens of the Stone Age recently. And when you see that, when there's a budget like 10 times our own, that what they can do with what they get, it's exceptional. I couldn't say enough about them. They really did come through.
For the budget we gave them, they definitely made the most of it. And it doesn't look like a underground band video budget when looking at it, which is really nice,
Yeah, not at all.
They did a fantastic job, and we're really happy to work with them. Yeah, we got recommended to them from what was it? Jamie from Ringworm. They were doing a video there. They brought them up on our radar, and then we realized that we had like connection with those guys already in another way. Because when all of us have been doing this for so long, we end up having friends we don't even know we have friends of, until you start working with people like, oh shit, there's a connection here or there, like one person away or something like that. So, and I was really happy with it. I think it's great. They did a great job.
Yeah, because demon transformations are not cheap.
No. And
bumper sticker.
Yes.
The really great thing when you were saying all the bloodletting and everything, that's where it really focuses in on this like first given moment, is that by that alkalite bleeding himself and the spectral entity that he summons to also bleed, the two of their combinations of plasma and ethereal blood, however you want to perceive it, makes a double helix, which is the very building block of life. So that is the birthing place essentially of this new deity that it will sooner develop. So that's why there's all that bleeding.
And there was a good the Coin did a good job, because the stuff that we wanted would have got us banned from YouTube, on the video. So they had a good way of negotiating, those things and make it so we could still have those aspects to the video without having those aspects to the video in a way that was going to get banned, because it's absolutely insane the amount of restrictions that YouTube gives people, bands or just anybody on what they post and stuff. They can't distinguish between reality and entertainment on stuff, so the Coin did a really good job of negotiating that, and I give him a lot of credit for that, because I was really concerned, because I'm just like, fuck, like half the ideas we have are all on the list of things you can't have on a YouTube video. I'm like, fuck, but it ended up they ended up doing a great job negotiating. I was really nervous about that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, how do you translate things when your initial plan is to gore, more blood, and they just like, you're going to limit your fan base. You can't do that. And then you start to look at things like the way that like Texas Chainsaw Massacre is that it's like a bloody, gory movie that's rated G because you don't see anything in that movie.
They're just
You know what I
worried
mean?
about
It's just
legality,
in your
not getting
head.
sued. That's all they
Yeah.
care.
Sure. You know, and by having that more mental attitude towards, you know, making the video and the visuals and everything, they nailed it. It was great. So
Yeah.
good for them.
You guys did a great job of implied gore. So I love implied gore.
Implied gore, yeah.
I like that.
There's
like
this
it.
crazy Black Mirror where this Indian woman accidentally gets blood on this talisman, and then this guy appears, this demon is like, oh, well, you have to kill 3 people or the world's gonna end, and all this crazy stuff. And she's like, what? So I can't imagine with the amount of blood that guy let what he was in.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
Black
doomed.
Mirror on YouTube,
No, I'm
they
kidding.
never allow it.
Too funny.
And then I really like the Spirit Made Flesh, the lyrics. The images are just what they're saying: fangs, hooves, hooves, and tail. Where did you find such great images?
Imagine any kind of, you know, entity, no matter what it might be, you know, it's going to have those elements. I mean, ever since the dawn of time, some serpent somewhere across the planet is being deified in some way or shape or form. You know, because snakes have been around since, I don't know, almost Diluvian. You know, you got hundreds of millions of years of these species living there. They're going to make the attributes how they see fit. Just depends on the ethics of the situation. For this, fangs, horns, hooves, tails, you know, the different entities that are involved, you know, creating a vessel. Yeah, that would be a demon. That would be an evil deity. You know, it's going to have all that stuff, you know.
I could see that line on the back of one of your T-shirts.
Sure. Why not?
I love
Yeah,
it.
it's a cool line.
So you recently completed a 36-day of tour of Dubai and Australia. What were your best and worst memories of this tour? That's pretty epic.
I mean, the worst parts we'll say is dealing with airlines. They fucking suck now. So they fleece you like crazy on luggage. I mean, the amount of overages we paid for not really that excessive amount of equipment was just abhorrent, we'll say. Yeah. So that's the worst part of it, really. It's just because, you know, there's all this money put into doing these kind of tours and stuff, a lot of investment, you know, and to be wasting that much money on flight transportation is just ridiculous. And it's like it's not going towards the band, it's not going towards the promoter, it's not going to anybody in the scene. It's going directly to these big corporations that just don't give 2 fucks about people, you know, and they just try to fleece you as much as possible. So that's definitely the worst part of touring, especially something like this where we flew to Europe, then we had to fly to Dubai, and then fly to Dubai to Australia. It's like, you know, tossing on massive extra expenses sucks. As far as the positives, I mean, there were just too many positives because every single show was just something super special. The summer festival season is a very difficult time to tour Europe, but being in our situation, we don't have the budget where we could just fly in and do, you know, a festival show. We're stuck in Europe for, you know, a certain amount of time to do the festivals that we are set up to do, and then we have to play shows in between, which the shows in between usually don't do as well because it's festival season and people are saving money for the bigger events and stuff like that. And that's just common knowledge in the touring, you know, the metal touring industry. It's probably that in any kind of music. But what was amazing was every show was fucking fantastic. I mean, the turnouts were really good, even at these, you know, shows that I was expecting like crickets at. There was, you know, packed rooms and just there was just a great vibe of being able to, you know, tour Europe in a difficult time, play some awesome festivals, but also just know that these shows in between are great. I mean, you know, we did so well as far as like the response went that even we underestimate our merchandise by a lot. I mean, we had to get 2 orders of merchandise made in a a 3-week tour, and we sold out of the merch both times. Like 3 days into the tour, we were only stuck with like super smalls and like double X's or whatever after a couple days, which was great that it was doing so well, but also sucked because we didn't have enough merchandise. People were complaining at the shows that they wanted shirts and stuff. And this happened. The same thing happened to us last year when we did the summer touring, but we still were concerned. We didn't want to over purchase merchandise because everyone keeps telling us that the club shows are going to be terrible, and the festival shows, a lot of times bands don't sell a lot of merchandise, so don't overstock. But this time we kind of screwed ourselves a little bit because we didn't stock enough. And next time we'll have to stock up more and see what happens. We'll probably get stuck with it. No one will want to buy it that time. It's the way it always works.
Yeah.
But
Always.
so for Europe, it was amazing, but also, to be able to play Dubai for the first time.
What was that like? What's the Dubai metal scene like? My God.
Yeah, I was really surprised because you don't know what to expect in a place like that. I mean, it's the Middle East, it's, you don't really expect there to be a good metal scene, or even allowed to have a good metal scene.
Right.
To be honest with you.
Right.
But it was great. I mean, we played a Tuesday, which they normally don't do shows on Tuesdays. They only do shows on the weekends because most of the people that are coming to the shows, besides the locals in Dubai, are a lot of travelers from throughout the Middle East go to these shows. So even with the issue of not playing on a weekend, we still had a really good turnout. We had people that came to the show from all over the Middle East. We had people from Syria, people from Saudi Arabia, from Oman, from Qatar, from a whole bunch of different places throughout the Middle East came out to see us play, and even had people that traveled in from like India and places like that to come see us over there. So it was definitely a special event, and it was a great thing to see that there is we'll say a quaint but strong underground scene there, and that people are really trying to kind of break free from some of the things that would probably not be possible, I don't even 10, 15 years ago there. So it's good to see that progress is being made, in a place like that. So yeah, it was definitely a special, and the promoters there were so cool and so gracious and so appreciative of everything. And the fans were just so happy. It was like unbelievable. I mean, they were just really, grateful for us, and they know how difficult it is for a band to get to play a place like that, and they were really appreciative of it. And it was nice to know that people left extremely happy, and just because of the way we are as a band, we're always kind of hanging out at the shows with people, and having either a drink with them or just chatting with people. And that was another thing, like especially in Dubai, people were just really super psyched because most of the bands that play there, they'll play the show and just leave right for the hotel room or something like that. But we stayed, we signed stuff for people, we hung out with people, took photos, and just chatted with people, and it was a really fun experience to be a part of. And then the Australian part was amazing too. It was our best run we've ever done in Australia. The shows were packed. The energy was just amazing. It was just, it's just fucking awesome. I mean, I can't be more excited about the future of the band, seeing that, over every time we return places, there's more and more progress as far as the fan base getting bigger, the excitement getting bigger. It just, and it feels great. The band's playing great. It's a fun to play with the guys. So it's just fucking awesome. I can't say enough how excited I am about the future and the way things are going with the band, and, all the stuff we've done, especially since the pandemic, kind of broke or whatever. It's just been a total blast,
And I think because of it, people are trying to get out even more because it was taken away from you,
Yeah.
your ability
Yeah.
to see live music.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to know that people are appreciating it, and it just seems like the scene just in general got bigger for the kind of stuff that we do, because we're seeing a lot of younger kids at our shows, that are really into it. It's nice to see that there's like, we get a lot of older fans because we've been around for a while. They're kind of hanging out closer to the middle or the back or whatever. But then you have a group of kids in the front, young kids with their denim jackets and their patches and their head banging and they're getting into it. I mean, that's an awesome thing to see, because that's, first of all, it reminds me of myself as a young kid going to a show ready to fucking kick ass. But it's just nice to see that there's still that younger generation, and these younger kids are just, like, holy fuck, and I think part of it is like they see us playing, we've been doing it for a long time, and we're able to kick ass and put on a killer show just as much as any younger band, or like, there people are just like, holy fuck, like, you guys are like, you wouldn't even know that you guys have been around for 30 years, doing this, or whatever. So it's really awesome to be a part of that whole situation.
Yeah. Well, we play a game on the show, so it's called Blaspheming Monikers. Okay, so the way the game works is, I read out 5 band names. One of them is made up, and you have to guess which one is made up. Okay, so you guys can just kind of take turns, I guess, going until we either run out of names or somebody gets it right. Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
you want me to pick the one that's not a real band?
Yes. Yeah. One of these is not real. Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay. 1, Looks Like Rain, REIGN. 2, Whip Liquor. 3, Pilsner Wolf, with umlauts, of course. 4, Disco Shit. And 5, A Plumber's Nightmare. So which one of those would you say is fake?
Duck?
What did you say the second name was? Whip what?
Whip Liquor.
Somebody probably did do that. And the first again, I'm sorry.
Looks Like Rain, REIGN.
Oh, God, I hope that's wrong. Yeah, I'm going to pick that one.
No, that's a real band. They're Virginia-based death metal. They have a split from 2006.
Yeah, I would picture that
guys.
as being like a new metal thing or something like that,
Some of these names are just, what were they thinking, All right, John, why don't you take a shot at one?
I need those names again.
I'll do it again. All right.
None of it stuck with me.
Looks Like Rain. We know that one's real. Whip Liquor, Pilsner Wolf, Disco Shit, and A Plumber's Nightmare.
Those are all cheesy enough to actually be band names.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know why, but I'll go with Pilsner Wolf.
Oh, that's good. You got it. That's right. I made that one up.
Hey, all right.
Okay, wow.
That actually is a really cool name, though, for a band.
Sure. I mean,
the other ones are all real. Disco Shit's out of Indonesia. A Plumber's Nightmare's out of Germany, and Whip Liquor's out of the UK. So,
yeah, well, I thought it was definitely.
Oh,
it was definitely. Yeah, I had no clue, but it just seemed like that's the only one that might be good enough for an actual band name, so it's probably not used.
Yeah, that one you can kind of picture like on a patch, like on a
denim
vest.
Of course.
Yeah.
Actually, you should make it up and then just wear it and be like, you don't know them.
It's like a tankard kind of vibe.
Yeah,
tankard. He actually has a made up band shirt on that he appears in our other show he has on now. It's called Stu Manchu in the Overalls.
Yeah, this is a fake band, right?
That's a fake band.
Manchu.
Yeah, that should be the new trend, is to wear patches or shirts of bands that don't exist, and that's only like scene gatekeep, about it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right, it's so beyond. Yeah, I'm so cool that
like does Stu Manchu like not have long fingernails but like spoons maybe, or
we were behind some guy at Hell in the Harbor that had the vest and the patch, but on his shoulders he had sewn like Beanie Baby turtles on both shoulders.
Like epaulettes.
Okay.
Why not?
Yes, that's I'm not
Do you
surprised.
remember
Surprised it wasn't
Power
dressed up like a
Glove?
Beanie Baby.
Yeah.
That's true too. Do you remember Power Glove though? That guy had turtles on his shoulders too.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, we have a band that doesn't exist too that we talk about all the time too. Just so maybe you could toss it into another episode or whatever. But the band's called Broken Bottle. It's like
Okay.
it's our fake Pantera cover band.
Yep, Broken Bottle. They're fucking
Just-
metal.
Just for street cred, you can just say, yeah, my
I
other
mean, what's more
project.
metal than like listening to Pantera and say, "Fuck yeah, I'm breaking a bottle."
Can there be anything more? I mean, you
That's
got it. You
great.
got to. I mean,
Broken Bottle.
sheesh.
We had made up another one that's kind of stuck with us. We always said it would be a good punk rock band. It's Skank Fragment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man. Skank Fragment and the crotch droppings.
But see, like you couldn't have a video on YouTube for Skank Fragment because they would flag you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
probably,
yeah,
yeah,
sure.
I don't know.
So
Yeah,
you're
probably
Well,
right
offending
out of the
somebody.
blocks, you know?
yes.
Yeah. Put some Beanie Babies on it. You'll be all right.
Yeah.
We actually did a whole show back on season 1 on bands that end in shun.
Yeah. TION, right.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I don't know
What do you think
any.
it is about words that end in shun that are just they fit death metal so well between, there's immolation, there's suffocation, You got-
Mortician.
We like we like it. We like that in the Northeast. We like our shun, you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then there's dissection now. I mean, that's all the
yeah.
way out in Scandinavia.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, they just had to rip us off or something. They say like Northeast is fucking cool as fuck. Let's use shun. No, but yeah, it's kind of funny because really like how many bands from New York? It's Mortician, Immolation, Incantation, Suffocation,
Yeah.
even Loveland Creation was originally from here. I'm sure there's other ones too. I don't know if there's not Sorrow Shun or any other. Yeah, I don't. My old band Revenant Shun could have worked.
Yeah. It's something I don't know. It's there's a link. It implies seriousness to me in some way. The serious that this is serious music. As opposed to like calling your band the Lubricants or something.
Yes. Yeah. Then there's
the
that.
Illuminatis. That's another one I made up.
The Illuminatis. I like it. That's creative, man. That's witty. That's good. I like it. Illuminatis.
So if you could go back and redo anything on this band's history, what would you change? You've been through so many lineup changes, but stayed so consistent.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say that I'm super happy with where we are now as a band. So I guess I wouldn't want to change anything because I would know it would change the outcome now. So I'm totally fine with it. But like anybody else, you go through life once and you kind of try to figure it out as you're going along, and especially with band stuff, working with different people, a lot of stuff you were young, trying to sort it all out, and mixture between the passion for wanting to do music and dealing with, everyone's individual situations and wants and needs. These are very difficult things to go through. But I think even though there were a lot of times when it was really stressful and I, was really kind of sucked, we'll say, to be fair, it's still all worth it and all part of the learning process. So I don't really have anything I'd really want to change. I mean, even though I do say all the time that I like to change stuff, I don't think I should. I really, in theory, I'm not really, it's fine the way everything worked out, I mean, I could go, if you really want, I can go through a list of everything I wish I changed, but I'm happy to be where I'm at now. So let's just not worry about that list.
I'm just thinking you've got to have so many stories because you've got pages of guys that were in and out of the band. I mean,
Sometimes you had one guitar, sometimes you had two guitars.
I mean,
yes.
Do you have any stories about, it's like flaky people or why somebody had to leave or, why they didn't.
Oh, do you want a Pandora box to be open?
Yeah. I mean,
you don't have to name names, but just the situation,
There's a lot of a lot of flaky people because I mean I push people sometimes kind of hard on stuff, especially early on. I was really excited about doing the band. It was like my main focus in life. So when anybody else didn't have it as a main focus in their life, there would sometimes be, tension in there and stuff like that. So I mean, you know, a lot of times I just thought that people just aren't putting in the effort that needed to they needed to. They wanted the benefits of the hard work put into the band, but they don't want to do the hard work to get those benefits and stuff like that. So I've seen that a lot, especially early on. I think a lot of people join the band thinking that they could be instantly rock star and cool or something like that, and then the real integrity of wanting to do it for the right reasons wasn't there. So that's that causes tension and stuff. Because for me, it's very personal. The fame kind of aspect of it is not so important. It's the music's what's important. Everything else that comes with it is just, we'll say it's like an added bonus or something like that. But creating the music and wanting to do it for music's sake is really the main thing. Yeah. To think though of any there's a lot of fucked up stuff. Holy crap.
We asked Mark from Jag Panzer the same question, and he said, because he's had a lot of guitarists, he said, we make sure every hand is shaken and everything is signed, and I don't want to hear any bitching about it. So if you start bitching, you're done. I thought that was great.
Well, that's a good way to look at it, because it's important to treat the people coming out to your shows with respect and appreciation and not just feel obligated, and there's we've had people in the band that I thought were too cool, acting too cool to the fans and stuff like that, and they were only happy when the fans would talk to him about himself and not the band. Like if someone was complimenting him, he'd be all about it. But if it had something to do with the band, he'd just be like, okay, this is kind of take, it's like it isn't as important. Like, unfortunately, we work with some people in the past that the individual was more important than the sum of the parts.
Yeah.
And those are the kind of people that we really want to weed out in a band, and we have weeded out now. And now it's a perfect situation. I mean, it's almost so good that you almost forget about all the negative crap you had to deal with in the past, because I'm like enjoying the high of working with amazing people who put a lot of work in and who aren't just selfish about it, which is really good, because doing a band, everyone needs to just put in the best that they can and try to work as a team instead of just being you
don't need those people that are so fake with their fake band patches and stuff.
I mean, there's too many of occasion where if like megalomania, no matter where it comes from, within or without, it's just not something to contend with. At least that's our way of thinking with it. It's like, come on now.
It's a problem with musicians and the music scene is that what happens, which is, and I understand it's tough to deal with, but when you are a striving musician trying to get somewhere, and then you finally get into a situation where you start getting noticed for stuff, sometimes it's really difficult for people to put things in proper perspective. They start thinking how important they are to the whole thing, and not thinking about that it's the whole band that people like, and they like you being a part of it, but the whole band is what's important, not just the individual person. I mean, I get that crap all the time because I've been in the band the whole time, and people know who I am, and they know that I started the band, blah blah blah, but I still don't, like, I'm not going around like being a megalomaniac about it. I'm being humble about it. I'm being appreciative. I'm showing appreciation to the other people I'm working with on stuff. I'm not just hanging out being like, yeah, I'm fucking great and everything, because I work with people that have really been so proud of themselves. It's just like, relax, it's like, I get it. You should be happy with your work and everything, but you don't have to tell everybody how great you are. If you have to tell people how great you are, then you're probably not that great.
Yeah. Well, how about when Onward to Golgotha came out, and it was so different, and it was so embraced by the underground. I mean,
groundbreaking.
That had to be something, a challenge to you to keep your ego in check. I mean,
yeah, well, that's exactly the situation that I learned from, because we were four people. I mean, basically we were four, what do you want to call it? Like rebel burnout metalheads that, were pretty much just like outcasts or whatever you want to say, and we put a lot of hard work like we do on any album. But, the first one was the first time at the rodeo. We just worked our asses off to make sure that it was represented us and was really good. And then once it came out, we all started getting a lot of credit for the band. And then around that kind of explosion of getting so many people praising us as a band, they start praising us as individuals. And that was when the fracture started to break in the band, because all of a sudden it went from like a team effort into everybody hearing other people whispering in their ear how important they are to the whole a band and stuff like that. And then egos start going crazy. And even with myself, it was a little tough for me the first time around to deal with the ego, because in my situation, I started the band, very humbly with, Paul Lenny and myself. And basically I was able to take the band from square one of nothing to putting on an album that people really liked. So everything I was doing, even though it took a lot of work, everything I did was kind of turning into gold. And I was like, 22 years old or something at the time. So you don't have the proper mindset to deal with that. It wasn't until things really kind of fell apart and crumbled where I was able to properly get 100% to where I kind of needed to be mentally to properly, get my ego in check. But, to be fair, everybody in the band at that time had an ego, and all our egos clashed, and we ruined the fucking band because of stupid ego stuff instead of, looking at it from a more mature way. But we weren't mature. We were fucking young. So we made stupid decisions. I'm just happy that I got that over with early, in my musical career, because I probably kind of went from like being really high up to being really far down and being nowhere and struggling to try to keep the band together. But that, by doing that and going through all that stuff, it really humbles you and puts you in the right frame of mind. And then we also work with other fantastic musicians that were super humble too. And working with them also, helped put myself into check on stuff, I mean, because I'm not one to say that I'm perfect by any means. And I, wasn't egotistical early on and stuff like that. It's just that it's important to know that I wasn't the only one that was egotistical. We were all out of our fucking minds, because we all did never experience anything like that. It's hard to go from, I was the outcast, like didn't have a lot of friends, only had like, only related to metal dudes, going to shows, being a freak or whatever. And all of a sudden everyone's telling you you're the coolest thing ever all the time for, a good year and a half at 22. You're kind of like, maybe I am that cool, maybe I do have the magic touch on everything or something, which you don't, but it takes a while to put it in perspective.
Right. To be successful is one thing, but then to stay successful, that's where you really have to have that vision.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is you realize, because like, let's just say when things fell apart with the Onward to Golgotha lineup, I had to really think like, do I want to do this, because, I love doing this, or are we going to do this because, the band got popular or whatever, and we're going to continue going with it? And I decided I'm going to do it because we love doing it and just continue following, the vision and the dream that I had early on, instead of trying to, capitalize and commercialize it, because it's really tempting when you're young and you get an album that does fucking really well, and then your brain just automatically goes to calculating, okay, how do we keep this success going and stuff like that. And I had to basically just try to smack that down and be like, okay, that's not the reason why to do it. Not this adrenaline rush of having everything go really good. We want to have fans because of our integrity, not because we're trying to please them. And to be fair, we did struggle with that a little bit, because there was a time period between Aura Golgotha and Mortal Throne Nazarene where, we were a little bit concerned about trying to maintain what we had. And it fucking sucked because everything we did didn't sound right, and it was like, it wasn't until we really said, fuck it, we're just fucking doing it and telling everybody to fuck off. Because that's the key ingredient to incantation on anything we do is the middle finger. It's telling the world to fuck you, and we're going to fucking do it our way. And that once we got on track, that's how the Mortal Throne Nazarene album kind of came together and was able to, be what it was. It wasn't liked at first either by any means. It only was liked 15 years later. It was noted as quote unquote an important album for us. At the time, people thought like, what the fuck are these assholes doing? Like, they did an album that everyone liked, and then they did an album that was so like fucked up sounding and so abstract and exaggerated on every aspect of Onward to Golgotha. But for us, it was the right thing to do, is to make that kind of decision, doing it, instead of, it would have been a disaster if we would have tried to make a crowd pleasing album. We're just not that kind of band.
Right.
And so many of your themes over the years have been, anti-religion. And I agree with it. How many wars wouldn't have happened? How many genocides wouldn't have happened? Even dumb stuff like I tried to get married Catholic, and I was dumb enough to tell the priest I was 2 months pregnant. He was like, oh, no, we can't marry you then. I mean, have you personally been a victim of religion like that, even at a small scale?
Are you recovering from religion?
We are.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, I mean, I think religion in general is unnecessary, and yeah, it's obviously a cause of lots of unnecessary problems in the world or whatever. I mean, religion was probably mostly used as an excuse just to be a dick or something like that. But
money.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean,
Like money.
When I was younger, my grandmother was my family was basically like Irish Catholic family I grew up in. They weren't really super strict or anything, but they did believe in God and that stuff. But when my grandmother passed away, and we wanted to, we wanted to have a church kind of ceremony before, whatever, before being buried and stuff. And basically, the local Catholic church didn't want to do it because we didn't donate to that church, enough. I guess we didn't hit their quota as far as enough to donate to get this kind of service from them. So one of my uncles had to give them a big check to have them do this service that's supposed to be something that you're supposed to do because you're a fucking church.
Thank you.
So, those kind of things definitely were off-putting, I mean, because I was pretty young when it happened, and I was already not super psyched about the church, but to see that was just like, that's really fucked up. The thing to do is to, to not accept, a lifelong Catholic, to give them, their proper burial ceremony, in the church that she believed in and followed for her whole life, just because that person, that the actual place where we wanted to get it done didn't get enough money from us. It just, if obviously it's this is total bullshit,
Yeah. Great.
So we love this record. What have been your favorite records so far in 2023?
John?
I'm thinking, I don't know, Chuck.
To be honest, I haven't really been too focused. I've been essentially reading or listening to audiobooks for the past I'd say 2 years now.
Yeah.
Almost 3 for that matter. So I'm the worst person to ask.
Yeah, let me think. What came out this year that I'm sure something came out that I really like. I can't think of anything though.
I'm waiting for John to say
No.
Taylor Swift or something.
Yeah. I heard Dokken has a new release coming out.
Yeah.
The Illuminati's.
The Illuminati's, yeah, exactly.
Yes. No, I'm trying to think. Probably, I don't know if it came out this year or not, but probably my favorite new release that I've gotten recently was the Troops of Doom album.
Oh, yeah, sure. That's
Yeah,
actually really great.
yeah.
Um,
It was it was kind of a compilation album of some of their other releases and stuff that they did. 'Cause they did the kind
Oh,
of smaller
Cavalera.
releases.
Cavalera?
Not the Cavalera stuff,
no,
but this is Troops of Doom. This is a band from Brazil. It has Gyro, who played
Oh,
on the
Wow.
first on Morbid Visions, and they have a band now where it's really awesome. I mean, they play some of the stuff off Morbid Visions and Bastille Devastation, and include it with some of their own stuff, and it really captures that early Sepultura vibe in the music and stuff. It was really enjoyable to listen to. And this was before the Cavalera brothers did the Morbid Visions, Bastille Devastation stuff. That's a newer one that just came out. And I didn't listen to all of that, but the stuff that I did hear off that was also really good too. I mean, I just love that. For me, that's a really golden era of thrash and death metal, is kind of from the early starts, the mid 80s up till the early 2000s, my sweet spot. So hearing anything like that is always something that is always gets my goat, we'll say.
Yeah, it's so primal, that stuff, like the Sepultura and Sarcophago and all that. Something about that part
sure,
of the world back then. It's so great.
Yeah.
sure.
I've always had a close musical connection with the South American, especially the Brazilian scene, the Cogumelo record stuff. So this year I was totally blown away because I got to see a Mutilator play in Belo Horizonte. They played the show with us, which was just a absolute dream come true, because I never thought I would ever see them play. It was a band that I was into in the 80s and stuff, and they got back together, did the show, and was just fucking fantastic. And I'm a really big fan of the old Brazilian scene. That's
Well,
a rabbit hole I could
we do an
really.
end of year wrap up every year, like of our top albums. So definitely, I got Black Braid, Obituary, and Incantation still my number one right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
cool.
awesome! Yes. Actually, yeah, the Obituary album's a really good one too. That
yeah,
came out really killer.
Yeah, we saw them.
Baltimore Soundstage,
They
yeah.
still crush too. Yeah, they haven't
Yeah.
lost a
Yeah, and
step.
I saw them when they played with Immolation.
Yeah.
They did a
Yeah.
show here in Philly, and it was great. Yeah,
Yeah, that
I
was
didn't think
it.
that they were going to be able to top Immolation. The Immolation set was so strong, and then they did. It was great.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it was killer. I seen them too in Charlotte. It was fucking well, yeah, I mean Immolation and Obituary, both
yeah,
phenomenal.
they were fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah, it was a great bill for sure.
Yeah. Very cool.
Well, hopefully we'll get to catch you guys at some point.
I'm sure you'll be back to Baltimore at some point.
yeah,
Yes, we
most
look
definitely.
forward to it.
Yeah.
Great.
Crab cakes and Natty Bow. Look out.
Yeah, there you go.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, there were more IPAers, but don't tell anybody.
Yeah,
Oh,
Natty Bow's more the trendy college drink. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I gotcha.
Fake band
Yeah.
name patches, that.
It's the same thing here with Yingling,
When my son was in college, he was doing a project at the dining room table, and I walked out and he had like a peanut butter smoothie and a natty bow. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, it's brain food. I'm like, okay.
Oh,
Yeah, they
God.
ridiculed me at the liquor store one time. I bought my daughter was in college. I bought her a 6-pack of Natty Bow, And the guys were like, "What? You got a college student visiting?" And I was like, "Yeah." They knew I wasn't drinking that shit.
Too funny. Too funny.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, back in the day, we used to just get whatever was the cheapest beer
Yeah.
possible. We get the most amount of cans. Like I think Milwaukee's Best was
Yeah, I remember
always
that.
like,
Yeah, that was
Sure.
the
always
worst,
a
but it was
fan favorite. So
mass
terrible.
quantity. Yeah.
Yeah, all ours was red everything. Red Wolf, Red Dog, Red Molson, Red,
I remember
red,
Killian's
red,
Red.
red.
I remember that one.
Killian's Irish Red.
Yeah.
Yeah, or ice. Everything was ice.
Everything-
Bud ice,
Yeah,
Michelob
the
ice.
phase. Yeah.
Bleh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
I don't miss
when
any
you
of
come
that
around,
stuff.
we'll take you to a little place called Flying Dog. They have really good local beer.
Yeah.
Oh,
Definitely.
are they a brewery as well?
Yes.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I have heard of them.
Good
You know,
stuff.
Raging Bitch is one of my personal favorites.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Cool.
We went to a liquor store when we were out in Oregon, and you walk the craft beer aisle, and we didn't know any of them. I wanted to move in. I was like, we got to try all these. So like every town you go in, it's like there's different craft.
There are
beers now.
microbrews.
It's great.
Yeah, it's really out of control anymore.
I think it might be a task impossible to do is to try all of them because it seems like there's a ridiculous amount of them, you know?
Yeah. But worth a try.
Well, the weird part, it was the same franchise as we have here. And I always said, can't they just switch aisles for a thing? You know, do like press a button and have the Oregon aisle come here and the Baltimore aisle
So
go
many
there.
laws about that though. There's all these
Oh,
laws
yeah.
about like we'll go to a bar and we'll enjoy an IPA, and then we'll go online and you can't get it. It's like
No.
based out of PA. We can't get it. It's weird.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's the liquor laws across state lines is a pain in the ass. It's a pain in the ass thing to deal with where you can't get certain things you want because of territorial issues or something. It's really, really strange.
It's all about someone's not getting paid, their
Yeah.
licensing or something.
Yeah, the government
Yeah.
just wants their cut on it, you know?
It's always
Wouldn't be
that.
surprised.
Yeah.
One of my
Just-
favorites was out of New York, out of Ithaca. It was called Flower Power. And for a while, it was you could get it down here. All of a sudden, you can't get it anywhere.
Yeah, never know.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this was great. Thank you so much for taking the time. Congrats on the
Thank
new
you for
album.
having us.
Fantastic.
Really good.
The sounds of decay!
Okay, Sounds of Decay 1 is Crisis Sigil, God Come Poltergeist. Our fascination with female-fronted grindcore and metalcore continues. Crisis Sigil is Ada Rook, Toronto-based vocalist, musician, video game designer. She plays all the instruments on God Come Poltergeist, except for drums, which are handled by one Melody Marrow. This is her first full-length under the Crisis Sigil moniker. She participates in multiple projects over the last few years, like Black Dresses, Backwash, Anarchy 99, and other screamy punk-spirited entities. She produces, she sings, she writes, you name it.
Song titles come off as a mishmash of random generated words and phrases like Blood Semen Box Elder and Right of First Refusal on all new units.
That's a weird one.
Most songs are layers of brutal drum pounding, electronic squiggles, and Rook's maniacal vocals roaring and shrieking at hyperactive speeds. Some ambient interludes and intros do a wonderful job at breaking up the brutality. 14 songs flash by in 27 minutes, so we're not talking prog rock by any stretch.
No, we're not. The combination of rage and vulnerability are what make this album such an interesting listen. Once in a while, she backs into some kind of traditional metalcore cadence like the thrashy segment of R.E. Weapon. The opener, Wet Dream, alternates speeding attack with corn-like vocal groups. Her fondness for twee-like melodies come through in songs like Nine Moon Damage, with pounding grindcore fits giving way to childlike lullaby at the midpoint, which she weaves back into the mix over the thrashy bit later for marvelous effect.
Overall, Crisis Sigil proves to be as packed with genuine emotion as it is with blast beats and electronic bits. Intense and engaging with interesting production, I have a feeling Miss Rook will prove to be a force to be reckoned with over the next few years.
Love that artwork too.
What a wild cover.
Okay, so let's play a song. This is the title track, God Come Poltergeist. Okay, Sounds of Decay 2.
Sounds of Decay 2. This is Chupacabra, which is harder to say than it looks. But this is their new EP, Fortified with Ashes. A Chupacabra is a relatively new beast in the vampire family that was first reported in Puerto Rico. At first, I wasn't sure how that legend ended up as the name of a death thrash band from the UK.
Maybe he was on vacation.
However, they also proved to be a new beast all of their own.
With this kind of kick, with this kind of kick butt and leave you drained of blood, smiling sound, I'm coming to understand the parallels. It came as no surprise to me that this band was chosen to record the music for Slayer audiobook Slayer 6 3/4. Their furious vintage sounds like they were traveled back in time to the early days and sucked up all the best riffs, added their own demons of toxic relationships and various travesties of humanity on top. The result is like riding an old wood roller coaster, speeding and groaning at the same time, feeling the whole thing is going to come crashing down, but it holds together splendidly somehow.
Burn the Clown sets the stage, getting your blood pressure going with the pounding drums of the aptly named Nidge Savage. Then those wonderful scale-creeping riffs of Alex Brent solidify that classic sound instantly and propel the listener into headbang mode. Heather Taylor's vocals come in last. Her delivery is vicious with a downright witchy chant. You can feel the indignation as she snarls, burn down the clowns.
Yeah, that's a Spinal Tap thing. That drummer named Savage. I forget his name was like Phil Savage or something. He dies, of course, in the movie. But yeah. FTTD hits next, cutting in with a guitar solo. The tempo slows here and there, but it always goes back to warp speed. The title track comes last, wrapping it up with plenty of melodic guitar and even more venom-filled vocals. The EP sure leaves me wanting another taste of this familiar poison. Let's hear a song. This is Burn the Clowns. Viv Savage.
Huh?
Viv Savage.
Viv.
Savage. I think he was the one that's in the bathtub. And he says, well, that as long as I have the sex and drugs, I could do without the rock and roll. I think that's what he says. Okay, Sounds of Decay 3. This is Earn, A Feast on Sorrow. Second full length from the London-based trio known as Earn, a band easy to enjoy but difficult to classify. Bass player vocalist Joe Nally cleverly employs interwoven clean and raspy vocals for the duration of the record.
Admittedly, I have not heard their back catalog, but based on this material, the stoner sludge tag is puzzling. On one hand, artwork and lyrics have a post-rock ISIS type feel about them, but musically, the band has a lot more in common with traditional metal and thrash.
Guitarist Angus Naira is obviously a student of the old school, his majestic and blues-based lead style comparable to something like Megadeth in The Burden and A Stumble of Words. Something like A Feast on Sorrow, the title track, could be a Nevermore song if the vocals were a little more operatic. And the stickwork of drummer James Cook is full of double bass flash in that one as well.
Song ranks buzz in about the 5-minute mark, with the exception of 2 11-minute epics. No lyric sheet, which is kind of a bummer, but this album offers perhaps a perfect cross-section of old school heavy metal played in a modern way with warm, expansive production. Again, there is something going on with extreme metal in the UK in this year, and Yearn is the latest example.
I want you to introduce the song.
You know, they actually, 2 members of the band had relatives that had like degenerative diseases, and that's kind of what spurred on this album. This is a song that is near and dear to me. It's The Flood Came Rushing In.
Well. We covered a lot of topics in the show as usual, didn't we?
It all goes back to eggs and chicken somehow.
From Home Depot. Talked about 80s fashions that we would like to forget about.
We talked about cowboy fashion and how it must be difficult. you think I ever get up and like, I don't want to put all this shit back on?
This has been the Snaggletooth Decay Extreme Music Podcast. Special thanks to John and Chuck from Incantation for appearing on the show. Snaggletooth theme courtesy of Gustav Jord of Defleshed. Sounds of Decay theme by Steve Rathbone of Lair of the Minotaur. Season 3 artwork by KC Angel. Be sure to get over to Aura Noir's Bandcamp page and grab some excellent Black Thrash merch. Decay bands, check them out. Crisis Sigil, Urn, Chupacabra. All content 2023, the Snaggletooth Decay Extreme Music Podcast.
If I press this to my ear, I can hear MDF.
This is the Snaggletooth Extreme Metal Podcast.